So this is a conversation that needed to happen. Me and Illmind sat down and discussed a whole lot of topics. It was kind of a surprise because it happened all last minute. And we cover everything from mental health in the producer community to his new kit auction site on which he's selling exclusive single owner sample kits for upwards of $10,000. The current state of the producer community, the story of how a hip hop producer became immortalized forever in a Disney movie, which is him. He produced a track in the Moana soundtrack, which a lot of people don't know, surprisingly, and a whole lot more. Look, it's a conversation with Illmind. That means I just need to shut up and let it run. Of course, that went down in the Music Entrepreneur Club, which is a free music business mentorship program. I'm on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Dame's on Mondays at 3 p.m. BeatStars.live, MusicEntrepreneurClub.com. Leave a comment and let me know what you want us to cover at the next interview, because we will have another conversation, Illmind and myself. And if you want me to cover anything else in future episodes, any questions, any concerns, any topics, leave a comment, let me know. I try to read them all. Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Man, it's a pleasure, it's an honor, it's a long time coming. I've known this guy Paint One for more than 10 years, seeing his come up, and it's just super amazing to see, you know, what you've been able to build. And so shout to you, shout to BeatStars, Abe, the whole squad. You guys are doing amazing things. The MEC podcast, all that good stuff. I feel like this is a no-brainer, and finally here, I feel like it's the perfect time to be doing this. So it's an honor to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. You gave me an intro. So were you nominated for any Grammys this year?
Not this year. But I'm so excited for all the stuff that was nominated. I think hip hop, you know, when you look at the Grammy rap album nominations, it's all lyrics, like true lyric driven music. And I think that's a first in a long time. So not to discredit the other amazing albums that obviously dropped this year, but there's always going to be some controversy with the Grammys, but it's super exciting, man. Super exciting.
Yeah, it seems as though they kind of took some input this year, because I mean, it's dope to see the brother Royce the 5'9", who's been making amazing music for so long, finally reach, you know, the attention of the committee, and then a lot of, you know, our peers are working with the artists that were nominated. I know a very close friend of yours, S1, was nominated again.
Yep. Yeah, that's like his millionth nomination. You know, he's the Grammy god. So shout to S1.
Yeah, and then a couple others too, and I feel like some of them just got it in the bag, but what do I know? So go back to how we met. We met through, I believe it was iStandard, and you had a BeatStars account before me. Actually, that was a big reason I joined, when Mike Trampy was trying to convince me that this was going to change my life, and I didn't believe him, stupidly. But, you know, you're on a lot of podcasts. You have your own podcast. You've even jumped in the chats of some of my live streams here on MEC. Why choose to stay so connected to the grassroots producer community? A lot of producers at your level don't do that.
Right. It just feels normal. It feels regular. It feels like the idea of being able to connect with other creative people, regardless of whatever levels any of us are in, we're all sort of in pursuit of the same thing, which is being creative, expressing ourselves in creative ways, engaging in things that could improve our own lives and potentially improve and empower other people's lives, right? That's really all we're here to do, is to experience joy, do things that are conducive to being positive contribution to society. And we just so happen to be creative people that do it. And our medium, for most of us, is music production. And so anything related to any of those things, if there's something that crosses off all those checks, then I'm always going to be super interested and wanting to be a part of and wanting to be engaged in. And that's why I do this. It's just super fun to do. So,
and with you, I feel like it's authentic too, because I mean, in addition to doing the iStandard thing, you also have been on tour and you know, with Pass the Aux and everything. But when you first started, when you didn't have any type of placements or anything, and I believe this is how you and S1 met, you were active in the online producer community space, right?
Yep, I really was. The first online community space I was active in was undergroundhiphop.com. They had a forum. It was a series of forums, and they had a forum, which was the music producer forum. And they used to do this thing where you would upload your beat. Back then, it was like, you know, you would upload it on like a shitty server in like dial-up or whatever, damn near dial-up. And I missed the dial-up boat, but when I was uploading, it was finally kind of like a little bit better. But the forums were the first thing, and that was 2003, 2004. That was the beginning stages of this whole, you know, connect with other creative people online sort of thing. And I think that was the beginning stages. So yeah, I've been at it for a long time in terms of just connecting with people. It's always been something I love to do.
It's so crazy because 2004 doesn't even seem that long ago.
It doesn't. That was 15 years ago.
Yeah. Shit. Let's not talk about that. So here's a cool coincidence. I don't know how this happened. We both recently tweeted that Instagram might be on its way out. I had my reasons for saying that. What made you say that?
I think that it comes from the sort of frustration of all of the different changes and seeing the transformation right before our eyes of how of what the intention of these platforms are really for. You know, I mean, we've seen it happen with Facebook. Obviously, Facebook is super powerful. I'm a huge like fan of Facebook ads and all that stuff. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But, you know, Instagram, to me, the joy of Instagram was being able to just like express yourself through like a visual medium. And now it's basically turning into what seemingly is a platform to get people to buy things, you know, upselling, shopping, stuff like that, which is cool too. But it's sort of taking away from the experience of what I enjoyed personally about Instagram. So that's kind of why I said that. And you're kind of seeing the same thing potentially happening with Twitter. So it's just really interesting to keep an eye on and see everything evolve.
Well, let's talk about your use of the Facebook ads platform, because it's the same as the Instagram ads platform. I mean, for me, I use it all the time too, and so this isn't just me saying I'm nervous about the course of Instagram because I'm an end user and it's annoying to go to click on my notifications and I get someone's trying to sell me Adidas, but it also concerns me because if people start leaving that platform, then and I'm paying thousands of dollars to advertise whatever it is to them, then I'm wasting money and I have to find a new ads platform. I guess in terms of, this was always my fear when this kind of thing happens. Where else do we go? What are you thinking is maybe on the cusp of becoming a good space for producers?
I think, well, not to even plug you guys, but honestly, BeatStars is turning into that space, that sort of like a one-stop shop space for most producers to be able to take advantage of and really use the platform to their advantage. Now, outside of that, though, I think it's anyone's guess, to be honest with you. I'm not going to try to begin to even try to predict that. But what I will say is that we're noticing that every year, every other year, there's some type of like pivot that happens. And I think that if that's a concern for anyone, I think that, being smart with like how you pivot is probably going to increase your chances of staying ahead of the curve. So like, Clubhouse, for instance, that's like one sort of exciting new platform that people have started to talk about. And we're still yet to see kind of where that goes. But I think in its early stages, it's definitely smart to kind of do research on it and insert yourself into that matrix and start building it now, as opposed to just like waiting later. So I think the next, 2 to 10 years, it's going to be a lot of pivoting into different places. And as long as we're mindful of that, I think as creative people, like as long as we just start to keep exploring these different options, then, we can start to build our stuff from there. But to be honest with you, I don't think Facebook is going anywhere anytime soon. So that's good news for guys like us, I guess.
Yeah. So speaking of pivoting, I think, for me, and tell me if this was your experience as well, it was a pivot for me to even get into the Facebook ads platform. I don't think that's naturally what we do as creatives. And so a lot of producers are in a similar situation where they're intimidated by the prospect of learning an ads platform. And on top of it, there are all these other options, people that are selling bots or lists to placements, A&R emails, that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people will opt for that just because it feels easier. And the alternative, which is a lot more fulfilling and a lot more effective, is just an intimidating prospect. What advice do you give those people, and especially from, drawing from your own experience as a creative who I imagine had to force himself to really sit down and learn this platform, which wasn't all that fun. It's not as fun as making beats. Yeah,
totally. I think that part of it is I just so happen to have this fascination with marketing and branding, however you want to label it. And I love creating campaigns that can reach people in unique ways and creative ways. And ultimately what I enjoy doing is creating experiences for people. So, one example is like, my app, right? So I developed an app and I released an app about a year ago called Illmind Connect. And I started to experiment with like push notifications where I would inform people who have the app of different things through push notifications, different alerts, motivational quotes from me on push notifications to like start their day off. So again, I think that throughout the years, what I've learned is with all these social media platforms, as a creative person, it is a lot to sort of manage from like a logistical standpoint, but it helps to treat these platforms as sort of like potential creative mediums to tell a story. And when you switch your mindset in that way and you start looking at these rollouts in that kind of way, in a creative way, things become much more fun. You go from releasing a drum kit with like a cereal box, artwork, and then doing the crossing off the checks, the email, the this, the that. You could do all that stuff, but you can also roll it out in this like creative way where you're doing something kind of weird and cool and quirky that no one else has really thought of doing. And that's how I always try to treat my rollouts and the way I treat the media platforms is like, how can I create an experience that's unique for the people consuming it and ultimately something that can help them at the end of the day. So
it's really just, it's a matter of falling in love with the process by making it a little more fun and more creative. I guess keeping the same energy that you would have when you're making a beat, when you're planning out your rollout for whatever product it is.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think a lot of people in their minds create this psychological wall between making music and marketing music. And I guess I don't know why, because all the products we buy, we're buying because they're marketed well in a way that makes them seem fun and appealing to us. It's not like someone's in a boardroom getting paid $1 million a year to, be angry about having to create a commercial. Like the commercials have to be fun. So same thing with us.
Yeah, exactly. And, the interesting thing that I think a lot of people are overlooking in our community is the fact that you're never going to have a rollout that will give you a direct, accurate, 100% accurate ROI on your efforts or your rollout, right? I'll give you an example. So because I do a handful of different things, I'm fully mindful that whatever it is that I do, whatever it is that I put out there, people are the end user is gonna consume a particular product or service, or believe in a certain brand based on the story that they're being told from that particular person. For example, us as music producers. So I think the question is, as music creators, how can we use social media platforms to tell our story, and to tell a story that's engaging and fun and captivating enough to garner the interest of the people that we're trying to get our attention to, you know? And I'll give you like a more specific example. So I have people know I have drum kits, right? Lab kits. And I might send an email out saying, hey, you know, like, buy this new drum kit. It's dropping next week, blah, blah, blah. So this person might see the email and say, oh, okay, cool. Illmind's dropping a drum kit, but like, I don't want to buy that drum kit right now. I'm not really super interested. And then a week later, they see my Instagram feed, and it's a video of us talking here, this interview. They're watching a snippet of it. And so that same kid sees our interview and they're like, oh, that was interesting. Like, you know, I'm a little bit more interested now to kind of, I'm interested in the story that I'm being told from Illmind. And then maybe a couple of days later, they see a video of me like wearing like this, you know, Fat Albert velour, whatever. And that at that moment, that third touch point, the kid decides, you know what, I'm going to go buy that kit. I'm going to go buy that kit. I don't know why, but I want to do it. Right. And so I think this is a very fascinating thing about marketing, is being able to understand that you're forever telling a story, and the story keeps going. There's a beginning, middle, end. And at some point in that story, there's going to be different people that are going to decide to enter and buy into your brand based on their own emotional desires, right? And I just think that's super fascinating, super interesting. I think that's everything. And I think it's way bigger than, you know, just follow me on Twitch. It's like, no, you follow me on Twitch when you want to. Maybe you'll follow me when I get a big placement and you see a plaque and it's like, oh shit, that song is crazy. It's one of my favorite songs. Let me go follow Illmind on Twitch now because I love that song. So in a way, we sort of have to give the end user the opportunity and the choice to say, you know what, I'm going to follow this person. I'm going to go buy their kit. I'm going to go sign up for their course or whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, and I mean that in and of itself is a really literal explanation of how ads function on a technical level. From my experience, it's really been a matter of approaching it as a long-term thing, and not, you know, because I think a lot of people will get burned out after a month. You know, their ad might get 1,000 impressions, but they're not selling anything, and it's because they haven't reached that critical mass of people seeing the ad enough. And so for me, I think I ran ads for, I mean, some of my ads are running for over a year, the same ad, and they just keep getting better with time. I don't know if that's how you've experienced these. Yeah, no,
I actually haven't been running ads for that long, honestly. So I haven't got to that stage, but that's super awesome to know that, where you'll have an ad running for like almost a year, more than a year, and then it picks up steam a year later because of that's good to know.
Well, yeah, because the way it's functioning is, and I'm not explaining this to you, I'm sure you know, but like the more people that engage with it, it's learning. I mean, Facebook even calls it, you know, like the learning phase, and Google does the same. So it's learning who's engaging, and it's targeting the people better, which, you know, on the one hand is kind of terrifying, and on the other hand, it's also economically beneficial for us. But so for you, are you doing a lot of analysis when you're looking at your ads? Are you constantly refining them and saying, okay, I see this is working, or all right, I have the pixel data on this, I'm going to start retargeting and making sure that the people who have already looked at the ad but haven't bought yet are seeing it again, because I think I can probably convince them that this is something that they want?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I started going super hard on Facebook ads probably in June. So it's been July, August, September. So it's only been 4 to 5 months in doing the ads. And yeah, I've pivoted a few times. I've done a few campaigns where I'll do 3 different ads at once. I'll dump $200 per ad every day, so $600 per day, and I'll let that go for 14 days, and then I'll see which one of the 3 perform the best through the pixel, and then I'll commit to that one. I'll dead the other 2, and then let that one go, and then maybe do another set of 3 or 2, test those, and then kind of go from there. So I'm very much still in the trenches, like forever testing and launching, but there's definitely 1 or 2 that I've been consistently using since around June, and they're still performing well. So yeah, it's just forever an experiment.
Yeah, some of them are working because I see them all the time, so they're cutting through the noise.
I hope I'm not super annoying like some of the other.
No, I mean, I will. Here's what I'll do if I see a producer advertising something to me that's not a beat, because I don't, I'm not in the market for beats, but you're not selling beats through your ads. I'll click like just so the algorithm knows, hey, I am your target. I'm a producer, so I'm gonna help Illmind out. I'm gonna help Dream Life out. Whoever it is that's selling something producer specific. Because if I'm liking beats all the time, that's gonna screw things up for them.
Yeah.
But I want to pick up on something that you said about your app and the push notifications and just sending out motivational, inspirational quotes. I've noticed, especially with you, and I've noticed it with myself too, that a lot of the feedback that I'll get when I say something encouraging is really positive. A producer will, just now a producer said, thank you, I really needed that today. I'm sure you see that all the time. Mm-hmm. People need motivation in this business that we're in. And unfortunately, I'd like to know your opinion on this. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with having a platform, even if your platform is small. And I recently had a podcast episode with Dame where we were kind of talking about all the negativity, all the discouragement that people are using their platform to spread. That has an impact too, right?
100%. 100%. I mean, when you really think about it, and I'm about to go like kind of semi-deep, I have beeswax in my mouth because I put real honey in my whatever. So give me a second. All right, there we go. So the negative and positive thing is, dude, hugely impactful on us, especially on social media. Like you can see something on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and if it triggers you, then it could ruin your whole day for a lot of us, right? Or it could just throw you off balance. And that's sort of the positive and negative effects of social media. There's a lot of positives, but the negatives are really negative. So one thing that's really fascinating to me, and I think is very interesting, is this whole idea of things being neutral, right? And again, I'm about to get a little deep, but the universe is a series of organisms and events and things that just happen because of the natural sort of rules of how the universe works. And so you have these things that just happen that are to the universe are neutral, completely they're just things that happen. And being a human being, part of being a human being is we attach emotions, and this is a beauty of being a human being too, is we attach an emotion to a thing. So the universe is like, okay, this is just a thing that happens, but for us, we see a thing or a person or an event, and we, as human beings, we react to that particular thing in either a positive way or a negative way. And so that's completely predicated on our biases, our mindset, you know, how much are we being mindful of paying attention to positive or negative things. And when you really sort of look at life in that way, you start to realize that a lot of the negativity that we experience is all reactive, right? It's all stuff that we react to, and we sort of have this choice. The good news is that as a human being, you have a choice to choose how you want to react to a particular thing. So I'll give you an example. We all get this. You get this all the time. People that just say dumb shit in your comment section, whether that's Instagram or YouTube, or you get a weird email. I love the emails that you post up from weird. I love that shit, man. Please, it's comedy to me. But when you see this stuff, it's really, they're just things that happen, and there's always going to be sort of this negative way that you can look at it or a positive way that you look at it. And one thing that I've been practicing recently is trying to show more empathy for people that say negative things on my comment section. So they might say, "Oh, Illmind, you suck," or "Yo, fuck your course," or "Yo, your kits are trash." And I can react to that. I have the choice to react in a negative way and say, I'm going to let this bother me, and I'm going to reply, and I'm going to say, fuck you. Or I'm going to react in a different way and show a little bit of empathy and say, wow, like this person is going through some type of emotional trauma to the point where they went out of their way to go on my platform and say something negative, which is a reflection of the way they feel in that moment inside, which is not a very nice place to be. And so I empathize and I say, wow, I really feel like, I don't want to say sorry, but I feel bad for the person who got to that breaking point of taking that kind of action with the Twitter fingers. And so, again, when I start to do that, it helps me personally with the positive, negative stuff. So I think that it's really important for us in this community to start to be mindful of how we react to certain things, and to just like certain things you just realize aren't like a huge deal. And when you start to kind of program your mind a little bit on that method, then I think it'll help out in so many ways.
That's good advice for me. Dang.
So let's talk a little times because people.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, and because the other thing too is someone might be going through something negative themselves, which I can understand, and they leave a negative comment, and then the person they're leaving the comment for might also be going through something negative, and so that's kind of the X factor. So it's a shared responsibility. And there is a lot of frustration in the producer community. I mean, you can feel it; it's palpable, and it manifests itself in these either negative comments like the "fuck you DJ Pain one," "fuck you Illmind," or these discouraging comments like "selling beats is dead." It's all about who you know and how much money you have. That stuff that all adds up to a really bleak picture. And demotivates people. It doesn't serve anybody for any positive purpose. But you know, there's a lot of hope in the producer community too. I mean, we're seeing people change their lives for the better every single day. From where you stand, you know, we're in 2020 going into 2021. What would you say is the state of the producer community? Is it positive? Is it hopeful? Do you have a positive outlook?
I think it's all things. I think it's all of those things. You know, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of people that go into this without arming themselves with the proper tools or the proper knowledge or the basics. And it's, you know, guys like you and me and people that are willing to share information and engage. We're part of the process of contributing to maybe alleviating that problem, which is amazing. But I think at all times we're going to have everything, right? It's sort I sort of look at the world like the world is everything and nothing at the same time. It's all things, all potential possible things have already happened, are going to happen, and are here at the same time. And it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with perspective. It's like there's definitely a super viable argument to say that the producer community is super amazing and healthy. But then there's also a super viable argument to say that the producer community is damn near doomed, right? And so you have these two sort of colliding forces that are both true. And so I think, again, it kind of, when you break it down into layers, it ends up being the same conversation again, which is the perspective conversation, you know? So my personal perspective is that there are a lot of amazing things happening in the music producer community. I mean, to just be able to make $1 from something that you would have done for free anyway is so amazingly incredible. And let alone to make, you know, $5,000 a month or 6 figures a year from making beats. Like, maybe you might not have a Grammy, maybe you might not have major placements or whatever it is. Maybe you don't have a ton of Instagram followers, YouTube followers, but if you're making even $1 from doing something that is your true passion that you would have done anyway, that's a huge, 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 huge blessing in itself. And so because of that simple fact, we are all in a really, really blessed position right now. And it's up to us to, you know, continue that trend upward.
Yeah, let me pick up on that, because I feel like traditionally, and especially when we started coming up, there didn't seem to be this entrepreneurial spirit in the producer community. It was more just, I make beats, I have to find someone else that's going to buy them, which is a record label or a major artist. And now you're seeing more than ever, to speak to your point, well-known producers who have 0 placements, who have 0 Grammy. People like Simon Servita, right? And I had that conversation. Yeah, and I had a conversation with him about placements, and he said, you know what? I might decide that I want to pursue placements. So he made that choice. That wasn't really a choice for producers 20 years ago. It was either placements or nothing, really. I mean, not to everybody, but that was really the path that I'd say virtually every producer chose. And you know, people like Simon, their brands are strong because of this entrepreneurial spirit. And you have both. You have the industry credibility and the entrepreneurship. What cultivated both of those for you? I mean, especially when you really have a strong foothold in both worlds.
I appreciate that. For me, it was curiosity, dude. Curiosity. I think curiosity from day one for me is and was and still is the driving force to why I do certain things. And early on in my career, and just being a child and just growing up in music, I developed this something implanted in my brain, and I developed this like real desire to be around other creative people. And so that's sort of the fuel under all of this other entrepreneurial stuff that I do. You know, if you really, you know, take a look at the stuff that I've been able to do, 100% of those things involve creating a product or service that's for or in service of creative people, specifically mostly music producers, whether it's my podcast talking about music production or drum kits or the, you know, Blap Session, Pass the Aux tours, or my app or the course I'm dropping or all this stuff. It's all very much in service of the people that I want to be around. And that's sort of the evolution of where, you know, where my head was at in the beginning was, how can I just, you know, make music because I love making music, be a music producer, but then also how can I create these moments or these campaigns where I get to be around other creative people. And so that was kind of where it started, and that's still kind of my fuel right now, is being of service to creative people and the people that are paying attention to what I'm doing. And that's forever going to be sort of like my mantra for everything that I do.
So moving a step beyond what you just said, I don't remember when it was. I don't want to misquote you, but you tweeted something to the effect of every idea seems like a bad idea until somebody pulls it off.
Yeah.
So here's an idea that probably some people think is absolutely crazy, your auctions. And you know what, just tell me about it. Tell me about the Etheria pack and how you're really doing something that has never been done and probably most producers can't even conceive of doing.
Yeah, so a few months ago, which was around the time where there was a lot of producer or talk in the producer community about, you know, the controversy behind loops and royalty free versus master clearance. And, you know, you guys have some amazing videos that do deep dives on this stuff. So I know a lot of people watching this, you guys community already know this stuff. And so being part of that conversation, one day I just had this idea. I said, you know what? I want to try something new. I want to try something weird. I want to try something different. I want to put a royalty-free sample pack and release it on eBay so that people can bid on it. And then it's only going to go to one person. So instead of the sample pack being sold in bulk and trying to scale where you have the same 5,000-10,000 people with the same pack, you have literally one person in the entire world who gets to own this pack, use this pack. And not only that, but they get to keep all the royalties and the publishing because it's royalty free. And I wanted to experiment with that idea. So I put together a pack for auction, 7-day auction on eBay. And the first pack was called Venom, and it was a digital download. And it ended up closing at just shy of $7,000 for the one pack. And so I released another one after that on my own platform, BidPacks, and that was called Etheria. And that one sold for around just shy of 9,000. It was 8,000 and change. And so I'm seeing it trend upwards, and I'm like, wow, this is like a crazy thing. But, you know, when you really think about the actual pack, it was in the beginning very risky because essentially what I'm doing is I'm putting my reputation sort of on the line, and I'm saying, here is the value of what people value in my sample packs. Like, this is what one person would pay for my creative work. And it could have closed at $100, right? It could have closed at $50. It could have closed at $200. I really didn't care. I just wanted to do it because of curiosity and because it felt exciting, and it feels like something that can sort of maybe open up a door for the community. And I wanted to be the one to do it. So I did it, and it ended up selling for what it sold for. So yeah, man, I don't know. It's very similar to a lot of the other things that I do, where I'll think of a thing and then, you know, I'll tell myself, is this something that I would buy, or is this something that I would go to? And if I would, then hopefully there's other people that would too. And you test it, you execute it, and you see what happens. And of course you fuck up all along the way and learn from it. You know, like when I put up my pack on eBay and it sold for so much, I had just started an eBay account. So my limit was, I think it was like $500. And so they had held the transaction and the money for like 30 days because I reached my limit. And so like just stuff like that. And then they also taxed me like a huge percentage because of it. And it pulled up a bunch of red flags on their back end. Like, oh, what's this random account that sold a thing for, you know, $7,000, like red flags. So, and then I took that lesson and then built my own auction platform And so that's what we have now. So yeah, again, just something that I wanted to try.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if that's what inspired BidPacks, but just to be clear, that Etheria pack wasn't just a digital download. It came with artwork. It came with one of a kind certification and a whole bunch of other stuff, which is just cool. I mean, because you're selling a whole experience now. It's not an $8,000 or $9,000 sample pack. It's art. It's its own thing. It's kind of like the concept behind the $1 Million Wu-Tang album.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, when you think about it, you can have a pair of Off-White shoes or like a pair of J's, and they might be trading on StockX for $1,500, let's say. And when you think about it, and this is obviously no disrespect because I'm a huge shoe guy too, but you're paying the value of $1,500 on the shoe is what the public values and what they've determined is the value of that shoe. It's what someone is willing to pay for. And part of that ecosystem is part of the auction packs that I released as well, but it's missing one component. And the component that the shoe is missing is that you can't monetize the shoe unless you sell it for a higher price. With the sample pack, and as we know, not only is it worth whatever it is that much, but you can, if you have the choice and you work hard enough, you can monetize that actual product into something much bigger than what you intended for it to be, right? So you get 10 royalty-free Illmind loops, you can get a placement from one of those on a major album, let's say, and you're going to keep all the royalties. You're going to make your money back in an instant and much more. So the potential to make even more money or to scale your investment is that much more controllable and that much greater than if it was just and this is no disrespect, than if it was just a shoe or a trading card or whatever it is. So that part of it I find to be very exciting.
Yeah, you can't chop a shoe up into 10 pieces and sell those 10 pieces for $8,000 each.
Yeah. Yep.
But you can chop a loop up, and it's so. I almost was going to ask this question. Like, I want to respect your time, and this is a
yeah. No, I'm good.
Well, I don't know. I mean, loops. Just the idea of using a loop in 2020 is still contentious to a lot of producers. I don't know why. I kind of don't want to jump down that rabbit hole, but. There are some downsides to using loops. The content ID system is one. And then another is just kind of the fact that this is all based on the honor system. So I found myself in a situation where a producer I didn't know sent me a bunch of loops claiming that they made it, and one of them was from one of your packs. Yeah. I know you saw that because you reposted it, but do you see this practice a lot of repackaging and reselling samples by people who didn't create them, and then how do you respond to that?
I used to go out of my way to try and engage and the world of takedowns and DMCAs and all that stuff. And in doing that, for doing this as long as I've been doing it, I realized that it's just a dead end road, because for every 3 people that you settle, you're going to have 4 more that sort of pop back up. It's kind of like those, like that old school game, like in the fucking,
whack-a-mole.
Yeah. The whack-a-mole thing where it's like, it's a never ending kind of game where you'll never win. And I'm finding that the piracy world, is very much that. But I will say this, one thing that I've really been into lately is looking into NFTs and crypto and creating blockchain for digital products. Now, I know that's going to be tough to try to add a blockchain to, let's say, a snare drum, and then that person uses it in a beat, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's what it's intended to be used for. So it's a slippery slope, but I think we're sort of headed into this digital file sharing copyright realm where I think blockchain and NFTs are going to play a big role in what that is, especially in what we do. So it's going to take us to sort of be smart enough to try to create a system so that we can have a little bit more respect and organization with all these files going around. Because when you think about it, man, there's so much piracy. There's so much happening. Your brain will explode if you really knew how much it was happening and how often. So I would fucking drive myself mad if I went into that world and try to put out all the fires, because it's a losing battle.
Well, beyond the piracy, I'm wiping sweat off my forehead. Not that I just use anyone's loops who sends them to me, especially when I don't ask for them, but just thinking of a scenario in which somebody would use one of your loops without knowing, or one of mine without knowing, and knock on wood, and this would be a great situation, honestly, they get a placement for that. God, that would be a mess, wouldn't it? Because it's a situation where you're probably not even finding out about it until the paperwork's already signed. And yikes. I mean, for them, that's a really bad look. For us, we have to, take some legal measures. Have you been in a situation where you've gotten a placement without realizing it?
Yeah, I have. Luckily, I have a good enough lawyer who lives in that world, who knows, the sort of proper protocol to be able to handle that in the best way that they can. So I'm blessed enough to have a good legal team to deal with stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely happened to me in the past. It's very interesting. But most times the producer didn't realize. None of the times it was there was any malice intended, which is also a big problem too. It's like you could accidentally do fucked up business without knowing, just being in that world. So it's very, very interesting. You have to be careful.
Yeah, ironically, because we come from the sampling era where we knew it was going to be a problem, and now loops are a solution to that problem, and they just unfortunately create new problems. And it's not because loops are inherently bad, it's because people are doing immoral things with those loops.
Yep.
Switching gears, probably a question I dread most from recording artists when they're either licensing or trying to buy a beat, which is, once I pay for this beat, I own it 100%. Right. So ownership has been a huge topic in the music business always, and has caused a lot of miscommunications, especially between producers and recording artists. This is the big question. I'm sorry to do this to you. What do producers really need to know about ownership in your experience?
I think it's again one of those things that's just like, there's an argument for both sides. The recording artist can have the argument of, well, if I purchase this beat from you, I own the masters because it's my song, and you're the producer and you didn't have to do any work. All you have to do is just produce it for me, but you're not the one out here working the record. You're not bringing the record to radio. You're not trying to get BDS spins. You're not playlisting. You just made the beat. You were technically a work for hire, in my opinion. So you don't get to keep this. You don't get to own this, right? This is mine. And that's also an argument from the major labels, where major labels are like, well, yeah, we own the master because we're bringing it to radio. We're dumping X amount of money into it. We deserve to see a lot of the back end from the sales of this record, because we are the ones working the record and generating the income for the record. So as the music producer, like the guy who just like made the beat, like you're out of this conversation. Like you're not part of this process. So that's their argument, which there's going to be a lot of people that are going to look at that and say, wow, like that makes sense. And then from our perspective, it's this idea of, well, like we're half of the song. The song wouldn't be a song without the beat. It would be an a cappella, which is all true and all valid. And so we kind of were left in this kind of like middle ground moot point where both parties have a valid perspective, and it's tough to navigate through that. And I always just say, man, at the end of the day, dude, business is business, number one. And number two, you just got to have a good lawyer. Just got to have a good lawyer, because everything's negotiable. People think that by default, as a producer, you only get 4 points on a record, which is like a shitty standard for a long time, but that's negotiable. If you have a good lawyer and you guys do your thing, you can get more than 4 points. You know what I mean? Like, you can bend the rules. So I think that ultimately you can have all the knowledge in the world, but ultimately what it comes down to is it's gonna, unfortunately, it's the attorney. The attorney is the one who's going to be in there, who's going to walk in that idea and say, we want X, Y, and Z. This is why we want this, this, and this. They're going to be the ones that are going to be redlining the negotiation. So we can think all we want about what we deserve and what we think we should get. But if that lawyer is going to be that line of defense that's going to actually go in there on the battleground, right? You're up here making decisions. The lawyer is literally on the battlefield, getting ready to really execute this. And if your lawyer isn't on point, then unfortunately it's going to be really tough to try to negotiate the stuff that you want. So I always take this approach of everything's negotiable. If you have an argument for a particular thing and you feel that you deserve some type of compensation or higher percentage for a service, then the lawyer's got to go in there and really knock it out the ballpark and sell it for you.
I just realized something that's kind of blowing my mind. So, for us traditionally working with the major labels, right? We sell them a beat, they pay us average $5,000 to $10,000 for it, and we're selling them our master rights to that beat. We still maintain our publishing, our composition rights, which used to be fine in the sense that, one, on the master side, we're getting 3 to 4%, which is not much, 3 to 4 points rather, which is not much. But because we still own half of the record on the publishing end, there are the opportunities for TV and radio. Cool. Nowadays with streaming, this is turned totally upside down, because the way a stream works is that the vast majority of it, damn near 60% of all streaming royalties, are going to whoever owns the master recording. So now that whole ownership of the publishing and composition doesn't really mean anything, because you could get 1,000 to 10,000 streams and probably see nothing on the composition side, but that master's generating a couple dollars. That has to change, right? I mean, what do we do as producers? Especially, we have to understand that, and it's something that a lot of us don't understand.
It's not going to take one person. It's an uphill battle. It's going to take some type of, I hate to even say the word union, but a process of a lot of us getting together and putting our foot down and creating a shockwave and a message to the people that are making these decisions to say, this has to change. It's no different than any other, even politically driven movement, where I'm not saying we have to go out and fucking protest to get guns, like, necessarily, but something.
But we could start, right?
We could. I mean, but you know what?
Let's do it. Man.
Exactly. Let's do it. You know what? What's interesting is the one of the things, in my opinion, that's holding us back as a producer community is that for every Pain One, Illmind, this person, for every producer that says no to 4 points, there's going to be 100 other producers that are going to say yes to 4 points. Or 4 is a bad example, 1 point. So for every Illmind, Pain One, this person that says 1's not enough, we're not going to go for that. You're going to have 100 other producers, whether they're new or established, who say yes to 1 point, which sends a signal to the decision makers to say, oh, well, that's okay, because only those producers don't like what we're doing, but all these do, because they're saying yes to this. So we're going to keep this trend going because it's in our favor. And this community, this ecosystem community doesn't really care that much about receiving 1 point. So we're going to continue to do that. Right. And it's the same with advances. Like, dude, a $5,000 advance is, look, $5,000 is a lot of money. Let's be real. But if you're producing a record that's generating hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, yes, the advance, the fee is an advance a lot of times. But, dude, $5,000, $10,000. I mean, for every... for instance, Mike Will, my boy, for every Mike Will who says, I'm not taking $10,000, I need 50, I need 60. For every Mike Will that says no to 5, you have 10 other kids who are just getting their first major placement that'll say yes to $1,000. You know, so it's an uphill battle, man. Like, we have a long way to go.
Yeah. Let's talk about something positive. So you've immortalized yourself.
Oh, man.
Period. In a Disney movie. How many other hip hop producers can say that?
Oh,
I mean, that, like, I can't name one. How did and then a lot of people, I saw you on Twitter fielding this question the other day. Someone was like, "You're on Moana." Yes, Illmind is on Moana, and I've been meaning to ask you this question for a while. How did that track come together? I know you have a relationship with Jeremy.
I'll trace it all the way back to the starting point of how it led to Lin and Moana and Disney. So you can trace it all the way back to an artist named Jared Evan. Okay? So I'll tell you why. Actually, we could trace it even more back now that I think about it. This is going to sound crazy, and I'll try to be as quick as possible. 2008, my ex-girlfriend at the time, or 2007, 2008, my ex started working for Fader magazine. I go to the Fader magazine office, and I meet one of the interns there. The intern there is named Jared Evan. I get to know Jared. I start working with him. He eventually gets signed to Interscope, does a bunch of work, blah, 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 blah. He's one of my good friends to this day. This is 2007. I start working with Jared. 2011 or 12, Jared Evan starts working with Static Selector. Static Selector and Jared Evan do an album together called Boom Bap and Blues. Jared Evan calls me and says, "Hey, I'm doing this album with Static Selector. Can you come over and help us mix this album? Because I love how you mix your vocals." I go to Static Selector's crib. Jared Evan is there. Static is there. We're working on the album. I'm about to leave Static Selector's house. In comes Joell Ortiz from Slaughterhouse. This is 2011. I'm like, "Joell, I'm a big fan, blah, blah, blah. Yo, great to meet you. I got some beats. You want to hear some beats?" Joell Ortiz goes, "Yeah, let me hear some beats." I play Joell Ortiz some beats. He loves them. We connect. We become friends. 2014, I get a phone call from Joell Ortiz. This is a few years later. He says, "Yo, Ill, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm nothing. I'm chilling. I'm in the studio." He's like, "Yo, can I come through?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." Joell Ortiz comes to the studio. We start messing around. We get some food. We hang out. We kick it. And then I play a beat. He raps on it. And then he's like, "Yo, what are you doing tomorrow?" I was like, "Nothing. I'll be here." He's like, "Yo, can I pull up?" I'm like, "Yeah." Next day, he comes back over to the studio. I pull up another beat. He records to it. We, fuck around, have fun, eat, whatever, kick it. And then that happens for a few days in a row. And then me and Joell Ortiz are like, "We should just do an album." And he's like, "Hell yeah, bet, let's do it." So me and Joell Ortiz end up doing an album. We released an album in the beginning of 2015. we release an album called Human independently, and we go on tour, the whole thing. It was a whole thing. It was awesome, amazing. 2015 was the same year that Hamilton on Broadway, or the play Hamilton, got into Broadway and became this huge phenom. So I randomly get a follow on Twitter from this guy named Lin-Manuel Miranda. Lin-Manuel Miranda is the creator of Hamilton on Broadway, the biggest Broadway play of all time in the history of Broadway. He starts following me on Twitter, and I'm like, holy shit, Lin followed me. So I shoot him a DM, and I'm like, yo, Lin, I love everything you're doing, bro. You're a GOAT. Like, In the Heights, Hamilton, congrats. He's like, yo, Ill, thank you so much, man. I love your work. The Human album is incredible. Those beats are incredible. And I was like, oh, man, thank you so much. He's like, I'd love for you to work with me on this Hamilton mixtape that we're working on, coming out on Atlantic. And I was like, of course I'll do that. So then me and Lin start to get to know each other. We start working together. And I end up producing 4 records on the Hamilton Broadway mixtape album on Atlantic. And that relationship kind of started to grow. And then a few months later, I get a random phone call from Lin. And he's like, yo, Ill, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in the studio, as always. And he's like, hey, so I'm working on this project with Disney, and I'm working on this song, and I'd love for you to, maybe help me produce it. And then I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And we ended up doing it, and it ended up, being on Moana, and it was this whole thing. And that was kind of how I went in, and I got to know some of the A&Rs at Hollywood Records and Disney, and it turned into, another pipeline for me. And that was it. But I will say, I know that was kind of a long story, but the Disney thing never would have happened if I never worked with Jared Evan, because I probably never would have met Joel Ortiz. And if I never met Joel, we never would have made Human. If we never made Human, it wouldn't have been one of Lin-Manuel's favorite albums in 2015, enough for him to want to call me in to do a song with him. So really amazing stuff. I feel like most people's wins, you can trace all the way back to this crazy turning point that you never knew would become a blessing almost a decade later.
Well, yeah, who in a million years would have thought that a relationship with Joel Ortiz would have led to Moana? But and I misspoke too. I don't know why I said Jeremy. Jeremy McCarter wrote Hamilton and co-authored something with Lin-Manuel. He's the one who wrote all the songs. So when you're in the studio with Lin-Manuel and you're working on this song, which Dwayne Johnson sang, I didn't know Dwayne The Rock Johnson sang, and he did okay, and it sounded good. It's a very, maybe it wasn't. Was it a different style of song for you? Was it a different process for you? It was very heavily guitar based. It doesn't feel like a boom trap beat. You know what I mean? So what was the actual process like?
Yeah, I wasn't in there when they recorded a lot of that stuff, but I want to credit. Oh my God! Like, it kind of goes back to Jared Evan, because Jared is sort of like this hybrid pop rap artist. And between the years of 2009 and 2013, I was really experimenting in like pop music and pop production. So it's great. And I was actually in a pop group. It was called Smokey Robotic with 2 other vocalists and a producer.
Yeah, no, I remember that. It was dope.
You remember that stuff, yeah. So that experience armed me with the tools to be able to produce a song like the one on the Disney album. And it was, the experience of it wasn't, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't super different than like any other real experience. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of like talking to Lin and getting their idea and then trying something, sending it over, and then they're like, oh, we love this, but can you change this, this, and this? And it was a lot of that back and forth. So it wasn't like, it's not like as like sexy of a story as people think. Like, I walked in and then The Rock was there and shook my hand. Like, I wish it was that, but it really wasn't. So Yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
So another thing you're working, is this true? You're working on an album with Guap Dad?
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to my boy, Guap Dad 4000. A lot of people don't know. I want to put this out there. My man, Guap Dad, is also half Filipino. A lot of people don't know that. So that's kind of the cherry on top of it. But yeah, me and Guap got an album dropping next year, and it's some of my personal best work. He's incredible. He made my job so easy, and we pretty much wrapped it up, and we're excited about it.
Did he have to submit like an Ancestry.com sample to you so that he could prove that the Filipino heritage?
No, but I should make him take one though, just so I could find out what part of the Philippines he's from. But yeah, man, like we had a lot of fun with it, and we're super excited to roll it out.
When does that come out? So it's done already. It sounds like
it's pretty much finished. We're waiting on like one verse, but it's gonna drop next year. I can't really say when, but next year. And yeah, it's going to be a fun time, man. I'm super excited. I'm really proud of him too.
So last question. Tell me about your course that's coming out. Is that connected to Platinum Club? Is that something different?
Yeah, so it's connected in a sense that the course will be at a huge discount to my Platinum Club members, my monthly members. But yeah, I'm really excited about it, man. It's my first course that I'm dropping on Black Friday, November 27th, 2020. It's called Mind of a Wolf. And people can go to mindofawolf.com right now if they want to join the wait list. Or if you're watching this and it's already after Black Friday, then you can literally sign up for the course. So basically, after all these years of personal experiences, being in the studio with different people, hearing all the stories, failing, messing up, winning, all the podcast episodes I've recorded and all the interviews of all the, people that have seen a lot of success and people that have failed a lot of times. I sort of took those experiences and wrapped them up into this sort of like interactive course that sort of takes all those common denominators of like what works, what doesn't, what type of mindset do I need to program my mind to, what kind of vibration do I need to tune my mindset to. And this course is going to teach you and open you up and allow for you to optimize your mindset so that you can arm yourself with like some real usable tools to be able to navigate through your journey of being a creative person. So it's an online course. It's super intensive. It's designed to continue to engage with over a very extended period of time. It's very much not a, get rich quick scheme or like sign up for the course and learn how to make your drums sound as crazy as Pain One. Like, it's not like anything like that. Like, it's very much a mindset, self-belief, self-love, organization, analyzation, all that stuff wrapped into a course. And it's for specifically music producers, rappers, singers, songwriters, and a little bit of, stuff for creative people, but mostly for those people. And I'm super stoked, Pain One. I'm like so excited, man. Like all these years I've been asked like, Illmind, when are you going to write a book, or when are you going to do this or this? And I felt as though it was finally time to just do this thing that could really help people, that could really potentially just shift someone's mindset to get them going on the journey they want to go on. And that's what I believe this course is going to do. So Mind of a Wolf, Black Friday, 11/27. I'm super stoked.
And it sounds different. I'm glad you explained it, because it doesn't sound like the run-of-the-mill course that's a step-by-step. Because realistically, everyone's steps are different. Yep. What I could tell you exactly what I did, you could tell me exactly what you did, and I could follow your steps, and you could follow mine. We'd end up with totally different outcomes. But so last question, because this has to do with your book, and it seems like it's this kind of more holistic approach to being a successful producer, whatever success means to a person. It's not putting people in a box. It's focused on mindfulness and joy. You recently tweeted, when you stop trying to prove yourself and start to live your life and focus on why you started doing this in the first place and focus on joy, things seem to finally connect and you end up finally proving yourself. I feel like a lot of these things that you tweet are the products of experience and not necessarily the most positive experiences. So did you go through a phase of deprioritizing joy and just focusing on proving yourself, and what were the outcomes of that compared to what you learned in that process?
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. You know, and to a certain extent, there's still things that I'm involved with where I still catch myself and I say, wow, like I'm still kind of potentially going through that in certain ways. But, you know, for me, the main one for me was prioritizing making money over anything else. And when I was doing that, it worked for a while and I was able to make the money that I was intentional about making, but I just wasn't in a place of joy or happiness. I wasn't super happy with the music I was making. I wasn't super happy with the people I was making music with. I wasn't super happy with the experiences and the end results of certain things that I made money off of. And I told myself, man, like this can't be what life is about. Just like a series of making money, but being unhappy. And that's really what sort of a day job is for a lot of people, unfortunately. And so I told myself, I became intentional about it. And I told myself, I said, you know what? I'm never, ever going to do something for money if it won't bring me joy or if it will make me unhappy. Right. And when you make that promise to yourself, you start to prioritize the action and the joy in doing something. And then you realize that the money that comes is really just the result of the thing that you did, right? People are trying to figure out how to make money, but they're not thinking about the thing that you have to do first in order for you to attract the money, right? And so when I started to adopt that philosophy a lot of years ago, that's when I really started to just experience abundance and joy and making more money than I even thought I could ever make. And that's when the real turning point started to happen for me. And, you know, that's just something that I think is a universal law for a lot of people, especially people in our community. And I really would love for people to sort of be open-minded to those concepts and that particular concept. And that's, in fact, not to plug, but that's also kind of also incorporated a little bit in my course too, on like kind of how that works. So.
Yeah, I would imagine, because you've been sharing a lot of, I think you shared a meditation video recently, or maybe it was a guided meditation video. Yeah, so I mean, all that stuff is in mental health and all of these other conversations, I feel like are just starting to, you know, peek into the producer community. And hopefully that's part of our renaissance.
Yeah, 100%, man. Because that's all we have is this. I mean, we're living in a world where everything that we consume and we observe and experience is all just translated into our brain kind of observing what's happening, and then our brains are reacting to it. And so the mental part of all this is something we should never overlook.